What is going on, everybody? My name is Jimmy Scalia. I'm joined here by my co-host, Bill Hooper. You guys are listening to the Third Floor Lounge podcast. And I know it's been a while since we've been on. We actually recorded an episode about a week ago, but it did not format correctly. So that was very sad. But don't worry, we're back here to talk some NBA. I mean, it's coming towards the end of the regular season right now. Finally, it feels like it's been taking forever. But before we get into that, Bill, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm ready to get back into the grind of making these
You
podcasts.
got the haircut, you got the beard's gone. You're like a new
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I'm total I look totally different. I've changed a lot.
You're showing me up right now. And we'll see if this different Bill comes with different takes as well. You know, I'm really
We will
interested.
see. We will see.
But to start things off, before we get really into it, just want to remind everybody, go follow the HSP podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Guys, coming out with a new account that's going to have a bunch of new media on it. We're going to have you covered with draft talk. Actually, me and Bill are also going to be featured on something soon, so be on the lookout for that. Regarding the NFL draft, as we know, that is next week. I'm super excited for it. Can't wait to see where all these awesome players end up in the league. So, with that being said, guys, don't forget to follow HSP Podcast, High Spot Podcast. So much new content coming out. We still have the Mets podcast going strong right now, and you're definitely going to want to check it out. I know you see those flashes on my face right now because I have the Nets game in the background. Look, I take this very serious. And as we know about the Brooklyn Nets, something that they are facing right now is just a multitude of injuries. Like, okay, Harden just had a setback with his hamstring. Kevin Durant gets hurt against the Miami Heat. And again, it's just Kyrie on the floor. Like, this is excessive at this point.
Yeah, it's the problem with having, some older superstars, Kevin Durant and James Harden in their early 30s. And I say that's older. That isn't super old for the NBA, but once you get past 30, you're going to deal with a little more injuries. You're not going to be as spry. It's not going to be, like you're 24 and you're playing every game in the year. Look at LeBron. He hadn't gotten hurt basically his entire career, and he finally is getting hurt now, which is just an anomaly.
Yeah.
And it just shows maybe that's going to be a trend. Maybe it won't. With LeBron, it probably won't because he's LeBron, but it shows like, it's all about the playoffs now. It's like, okay, you have your two superstars hurt. It's like, just rest up for the playoffs. Even if they don't play in the first round, the Nets will probably get it done in the first or second round. Just rest up, get ready for the playoffs, and really the Eastern Conference Finals and the championship is what matters.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's kind of funny as everybody's, expecting Brooklyn to face off against the Lakers. And it's funny how both their two of their stars are both out. Anthony Davis and LeBron for the Lakers. And obviously now we have Durant is back on the injury report, and James Harden. We might not see James Harden to the playoffs, So it's like, look, I still think they're obviously going to be great in the playoffs. It's what we all expect, but it's like you kind of want some chemistry with all three of those guys on the court. They only played about 7 games with each other, and they haven't been together in months. It's been months. I mean, as soon as KD came back, Harden went down with the hamstring, had a setback. This is the second setback. So it's just like, it's kind of frustrating. You want to see all these guys play. You want to see them get the chemistry. And kudos, to the rest of the Nets right now. They have a great supporting cast, as we know. They're just full of role players that are great for that team, whether it be Joe Harris or Uncle Jeff, Landry Shamet. He had 30 against the Heat. So, we know how talented they are, but as a basketball fan, honestly, all across the league right now, just dealing with injuries. I mean, all over the place. We just saw Donovan Mitchell. He's down. He's going to be out a couple weeks now. And my bold prediction, I think the Suns are going to snatch that number 1 seed in the West.
Wow, I could see that. Yeah. With the injuries, it's like, with this shortened season, more frequent games. They're playing less games than they usually. I believe they're playing like 72 instead of 82. They're just packing them in. It feels like sometimes they're playing 6 games in like 9 days, which is just unsustainable. Yeah. That's just not right. This isn't baseball where, there's not as much, there's more, but in between action, right? In the NBA, it's like the guys are playing like 35 minutes, they're running cross court, and that puts a hamper on their bodies. And then you have all these back-to-backs, and eventually that just gets to them. That gets to them. So that's just the issue with this new CBA, you know, that the agreement that they came to. Like, they need to go back to the old ways next year, and they probably will with the coronavirus pandemic hopefully ending. But like, that's an issue, and that ruins the game, because you have guys that now might not even be healthy for the playoffs. You know, you hope all the stars are going to be healthy, but now you've ruined, you know, because you decided to shorten the season, because you decided to pack all these games in, you've ruined a lot of the competitiveness of the league and the fun of it when it'll come playoff time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and obviously we see, you know, like I said, Donovan Mitchell. This is another guy that's out right now. You know, they're number one seed in the
Jamal
West.
Murray,
Yeah,
he
Jamal
got
Murray
hurt.
tears his ACL. You know, like, I mean, it's just crazy. You know, like the level of stars. It's pretty much like the best players on some of the best teams are hurt right now. You
Yeah.
know, obviously it hurts viewership too. You want to tune in to see the stars play, but there is one guy that hasn't gotten hurt yet. Let's knock on wood. His name is Stephen Curry. And this guy is going insane right now. 21 career games with 10 made 3-point field goals. Okay. The next guy on that list who's ever had 10 3-point field goals in a game, Klay Thompson's had 5 of those instances. Like Steph Curry, dude, like you watch this run he has been on. He's averaging like 45 points a game. And the Celtics game that I tuned into, like, it is actually unbelievable how much this guy carries and how quickly they like how much all the work he does could just get vanished because of the poor supporting cast that's around him. It's so frustrating to watch. But this guy is going insane right now.
Literally, it's honestly a pleasure to watch him. He's something that is so new to the league. Like, he totally changed the game like 5 years ago,
Yep.
and what he's doing is just so unique. Like, the fact that he can hit so many three-pointers at such an insane efficiency is just, it's so unique, and it's so like, it adds this element to the game where it's like he's not this big guy that has to get rebounds or has to like body people, you know, like the old NBA. He's just completely changed the game. And like, if the Warriors had Klay Thompson this year, they'd have a better record, and Steph would be the MVP conversation. Like, right now, if we're talking like who is the pure MVP, you know, like Jokic is obviously up there, but Steph is there. Obviously, he can't win MVP because, you know, the Warriors are too low of a seed. They won't give it to like a ninth or a 10th seed. The MVP won't go there, but he's playing, at least in the past like month or so, way better than anyone in the league, like by far. It's like, you know,
Yep.
you mentioned that he had 21 10+ 3-point games, and Klay had 5 in his career. I read that Curry had 4 in
Yeah.
his last 5 games, 4 10
Like,
plus 3-point games in his last 5 games. So he is just going nuclear and putting up like half of his team's points and winning the games for his team. It's just insane. Like, it's just, honestly, we should all just treasure this moment, just watching an all-time great just at the peak of his abilities.
100%. Yeah. And I hate all those people that just like attack what, you know, what he's done in the finals and whatnot. Something that I really like, you know, it shows that he's such a great player and teammate. When Kevin Durant went to Golden State, this dude was okay with letting him shine. Like, this dude was okay with, like, you know, obviously because KD ended up being finals MVP both times that they won with him. Now, without any of those talents in the game at all, besides, I think Draymond is still, you know, he's a good player. He's not a great scorer, but I do give a lot of credit to what Draymond does in games. He's obviously like, this guy gets double doubles with boards and assists. You know, we don't see that a lot. Obviously, double doubles in today's game, you're gonna at least get 10 points, but some games he doesn't even get 10 points. So he does a lot in orchestrating the offense and things like that. Outside of those two guys, there's not a lot going on there, like, at all. I've seen just terrible ways. Trust me, I've bet on the Warriors. I've seen terrible ways that they've lost games in the closing minutes. You know, whether that ball has not been in Steph's hands. You know, it's like frustrating. But like we said, I mean, they should have honestly beat the Celtics, that we know. And they go and they beat the 76ers the other night. So it's just like, it's unbelievable, like, how high it take. And you're right, MVP. Like, think about what he's doing with this team right now. Like the fact that they're even hovering around 500 is crazy because it's solely him at this point.
I know, and I agree with your point about Draymond. Like a lot of his abilities are invaluable. Like just his defensive mindset on the court. He gets guys in position. He's like that
Yes.
leader. A lot of the things he does is like intangible. They're
Mhm.
not recorded on the stat sheet. And
He's like a coach.
exactly. And watching these Warriors really makes me kind of excited for them next year because I feel like once they won those championships, they were at their peak. They had Kevin Durant. They won before they had Kevin Durant, and then they obviously lost. But with Clay, Curry, and Draymond, even though they're getting older, their abilities, their skill sets age well, especially Clay and Curry, because shooting threes, like you know, it's not they don't have to be super athletic to shoot threes, right? So their skill sets will age well. And I really think if Clay gets back to even like 80% of what he used to be, and Curry continues what he's doing, which I think he will for at least another few years, because shooting, he'll stay a good shooter. He just won't lose that ability.
Yeah.
I think the Warriors are, one of the favorites in the West. I might put them above the Lakers if Clay can get healthy, which is adds to the excitement, the more parity of the league in the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, and something that I think is also unfair. A lot of people is just starting to write off James Wiseman. Look, LaMelo was there. Why didn't you take him? It wouldn't make any sense to take LaMelo Ball in this
Yeah.
situation. He wouldn't fit with this team. Wiseman is someone they needed. They needed a big man in the trenches for them. And honestly, he was coming down he was coming on down the stretch those last couple of games before he got hurt. I saw a couple double performances. He was getting better defensively. These people like saying a possible trade. And, even like Steve Kerr's quote, I respect Steve Kerr's a great coach, but he's like, oh, nobody's really tradable. Like, dude, give this guy like a chance. Like, I think he could be, exactly what they need, obviously, like that big man in there to really establish that identity, similar to, the Bulls, they didn't have that big man presence inside that guy to get rebounds and stuff. They got Dennis Rodman, and it was the final piece of the puzzle, and it worked for them. So I would love it, if they came out and were dominant again next year. That'd
Yeah,
be
I
awesome.
agree. And I think they really will get to that like dominant ability next year if Clay comes back healthy. But one other team I want to talk about is the Clippers, just because I think
Okay.
they're kind of
All
in
right.
limbo.
They're interesting right now.
Yeah,
They're a
they're kind of
little interesting.
like they're kind of in limbo because they are healthy-ish. Obviously Kawhi takes his games off, Paul
Yeah.
George gets his games off, but I feel like they're right there. I mean, if
Rondo,
hypothetically,
massive.
yeah, if LeBron doesn't come back at 100%, if he has a slow return, if AD doesn't come back 100%, like hypothetically, the Clippers could even play the Lakers in the first round. Like that could happen,
Yeah.
because the seeds are
That
close.
would
So
be
it's like,
really cool.
and if they're not healthy soon, AD or LeBron, like the playoffs will sneak up on them. So I think the Clippers could make a big statement in the West, especially because they look like the healthiest team right now in the West.
Yeah, and look, the acquisition of Rondo is absolutely massive for them.
Yeah.
They know they needed somebody. Obviously, like we just talked about Draymond, they needed someone to organize the offense. The point guards that they had were Patrick Beverly and Lou Williams. Patrick Beverly is known for agitating defense, and he's obviously he's a tough player. And then Lou Williams is kind of more of a pure scorer, whereas Rondo is complete opposite of either of those things. So it's like you got those different things, and Rondo just brings a different element of the game where he's going to get everybody in position, get like guys like Paul George and Kawhi. Marcus Morris is having a great season from three right now. Zubac is like starting to come on a little down the stretch now. So it's like it's really cool to see like all these other pieces that we knew they were deep last year, but they couldn't just figure it out. They have looked good, like they really have. Um, and I think they can make noise for sure. Getting a series against the Suns or the Jazz, like they could that could go to 7 easily.
And the fact that they were like universally considered the favorites, like the title favorites last year, like everyone in the media, it seemed, even myself, I even thought that the Clippers were better than
Yeah,
the
me
Lakers.
too.
Everyone thought that the Clippers were just gonna be way better than the Lakers. Like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is just coming off that championship with Toronto, in which he like basically carried that team.
Yeah.
So it's like you have these two uber talented players that have Kawhi has championship experience. Paul George, even though he struggled on the playoffs, he's still a super talented player. You know, I feel like if they really are that competitive team, like if they are really competitive guys, I think that like you'll see that fire that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard will come with in the playoffs after like getting embarrassed, basically going up 3-1 against the Nuggets in the bubble and then collapsing. How do you lose 3 games in a row after going up 3-1? Like that just should not happen to any basketball team. You've collapsed. It's embarrassing. These guys had an whole off season to think about it. The season they're coming in and they've come out strong. They take their rest days, but like when their whole team is healthy, when they're all playing together, they look like a really good team. And like, a lot of people want to crown the Lakers early or, there's the Nuggets even, but like, I think the Clippers I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on the Lakers and all the other teams in the West.
Yeah, I'd be scared to play them, personally for me. And I really want to see which teams need to go further between, the 1 and the 2 seed, what it looks like right now, whether it be the Jazz or the Suns. But yeah, like I said, that'd be any series is like awesome right now. Like, oh, Jazz Lakers, that's a great series.
Yeah.
Suns Clippers, that's a great series. However, whichever combination you really want right now. Like, I am so excited for the West playoffs. The East, I'm not as excited.
Yeah,
I won't lie to
totally.
you. Okay, the talent's a little shaky there. Boston's been hot lately. I'll give it to them, but overall, they have just been an extreme disappointment, I would say, for the season so far. You got the teams like the Atlanta Hawks and the Hornets hovering around the 4th seed. So that definitely says a lot about what's going on in that conference over there. So, like I said, super excited for the West. Definitely see what happens in the East. But Bill, as we come to a close on this episode, really quick, do you have a matchup in mind for the NBA Finals?
I'm gonna say Nets in the East come out of the East. Just because I know they're the favorite, everyone's talking about them, but I really think they're the most talented team. If they're healthy, they're coming out of the East. And I'm gonna go with the Clippers.
There it is. That's what we wanted to hear.
Clippers. I know, Lakers fans, they might criticize me, but with the injuries that LeBron and AD, they're obviously, if they're 100%, I think the Lakers will probably come out of that series. But with all the uncertainty and like, I think the competitive fire that Kawhi and Paul George might come out with, I think I would put the Clippers right now. So Nets Clippers. What about you?
I'm definitely obviously going to stick with the Nets on this one. Like, assuming that they're all healthy for this moment, and they'll get that first round of the playoffs to really get in sync with each other because they're going to be playing a god awful team, as we all know. We'll get that extra time. So I think the Nets will come out of these. And I'm going to stick to my guns. I think the Suns, like, I really like the supporting cast that the Suns have. And I really love what Chris Paul is doing there right now. Like, dude, this guy just goes to garbage teams and just brings them to the playoffs, makes them contenders. Like, and now he's found the perfect, Batman. I mean, Robin to his Batman right now, Devin Booker, who's a guy that has ice in his veins, and we've seen him come up huge in big moments, throughout his career. And DeAndre Ayton, like, I love that core of those 3 guys. Add in Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder. So it's like there's a lot of good players right there. Like, I think they're so sound. I watch them play together. Like, whatever magic they had in the bubble just feels like it's carried on, and it's gotten even stronger now. And it's just something I really like about Phoenix. Going down the stretch. So that's my pick. Very bold. We'll see if it happens. So Lakers fans won't be thrilled with what we said right now. With that being said, guys, so happy you guys tuned in to watch this episode. And obviously, we're getting ready for the NFL draft right now. I'm obviously pumped. Be on the lookout for content with that. As always, Bill, thank you for joining me.
Yep. Great episode.
And we'll see you guys next time. All right. So take care, everybody.